We know that Estan grew up in a time of uncertainty and fear, but his home was a place of security and a safe haven. Every day, Estan, he witnessed the resolve of his parents and his grandparents to labor so that they could provide provision and care for him. And what happened when he was that young age, he witnessed his family's values of loyalty and devotion, and it transferred to Estan. And that made him the man that he grew up to be. He could relate to an audience, whether it was a room full of pilots in a training class or giving testimony as a witness in an investigative hearing. When his flying days were over, our neighbor Bert said, "Why don't you apply for that Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award?" To achieve this award, you had to prove with documented evidence that you had accomplished a flight safety record of at least 50 years. Estan had done this, and a picture of him receiving his award hangs in the QB hut to this day. I wish I had written down the day that Estan said, "Linda, we're going to pray together every night." We had never prayed together. And every night his big hand would reach out and we would pray. Family members heard him praying too. We prayed for strength, but Estan became weaker. The Lord gave Estan a wonderful life, full of purpose and even honor. When he could no longer fly, he asked God to let him live to help his family, and God did it. But years later, after that, when Estan said he wanted us to pray every night, that is what God was waiting for. What God had been waiting patiently for. I know now that when Estan said we would pray together, I know now that his time on earth would soon be over. And so that little boy who became an international airline pilot, who learned to fly not only to cities but to countries, who flew over the Amazon River in the pitch black darkness of night, who trained pilots in Germany, transported troops to the Middle East, who safely transported a large number of passengers that he was called master pilot by his peers. The man who had loved all his family and proved his love as he carried buckets of water into the house. He learned devotion and loyalty. Through our family, Estan's legacy lives on. And so this man now sat in his chair in his office and laid his head down flat on his desk. "My head feels so heavy," he said. And so now we know that little Indiana farm boy, he wasn't running away from home that day. He had a destination. He knew exactly the route he would take. He was not afraid. He had a plan. And here we are. And he's back in the Indiana farmland right now. Estan Lee Fuller has come back home. He has come full circle. And we will see him again. That little boy was living proof.
If the member can't make it to the meeting, they have a call in, and it's just to touch base that he was thinking of everybody, and just to throw his name in the hat, out there. And this article, though, it talks about my dad. He made the call into this hut right here right before he died, just to check in with the guys, tell me he was thinking about them. And then my mom, she found this letter in his handwriting.
In his pocket.
In his pocket, and it's just he was always big on notes, his memory. So he's always been like that. He had notes back in the day. He was co-pilot, Eastern. The little captains were raunchy, and he would keep a little cheat note on which captain and what way he wanted to fly the airplane, because they all were different.
Brother QB, valiant friend, go in the grace of God. Go where the ships come down to park, when day is done and night falls dark, and landing gears etch deep their mark upon eternal sod. Brother QB, valiant friend, go with a heart at peace, for though alone thy flight shall be, such journey is not strange to thee, whose years have compassed land and sea, so long without cerise. Brother QB, valiant friend, go to eternal rest, for storms shall roll and winds shall fly, without erasure from on high. Thy trace writ large on freedom's sky, until thy course has held west. Linda, as governor of the Lakeland hangar of the Order, Secret Order, and Ancient Order of the Quiet Birdman, I wish to extend you the heartfelt condolences of Estan's fellow QBs. We knew Estan not only as a pilot, but one of the finest fellows of the world. All of us consider his passing a personal loss. Estan's name has been added to our Gone West plaque. This plaque is a permanent place of honor in our hangar, and a solemn toast is made at each meeting to the memory of those truly fine friends who have gone west. For your information, wives, mothers, daughters are allowed to wear Estan's wings. For anyone who has gone west, they are allowed to do that. We would be pleased and honored for you to wear Estan's wings. Again, Linda, please accept our sincere condolences, and we ask that you let us know if there's anything we can do for you. Sincerely, Roger Olson, Governor, Lakeland hangar.
Myself, along with my younger siblings, Dave and Marty, we were the three babies. We were often called the three kids.
How many kids total were there in the family?
There were 12. One sister died as an infant, so we often said 11. But we all had our tonsils out the same day. 7, 6, and 4. So we came home. Dave and Marty, they were all boisterous, bouncing around the place. Nothing happened to them. I was real quiet, and what happened to me was that I was hemorrhaging. And quite unexpectedly, my big brother Estan, who was like 16 when I was born, he came home unexpectedly from the Navy on leave, and everyone was in chaos. We lived out in the country. There was no way to get an ambulance out there. So he came home, and he was like always this take charge kind of person. So he grabbed the keys off of John, his older brother, so that he could take his wonderful new convertible, and he drove like a bat out of, excuse me, hell, to get to the hospital and basically saved my life. So my daughter always wants me to tell that story because she says to she used to say to her Uncle Estan every time that she saw him, "Thank you, you're the reason I'm here." Anyway, he was a great man, a legend. I know all of you know stories about him, and as a matter of fact, I've never met anyone. I'd love to have time to sit down and talk to all of you quiet birdmen, because well, you might not tell the story, so they might be secret, but everyone I ever met who knew my brother had a story to tell about him. And but he lived a big life, but he was very quiet about it. You know, you never heard him bragging about any of his accomplishments or anything like that. So we miss him. We always will. But you know, it's just sad to lose him, and it's sad to be here in these environs without him here.
Many of you guys might not know this, but during the Gulf War in late 80s, 1990 or somewhere like that, they drafted commercial airline pilots into an Air Force, so to speak, to ferry pilots over to the Middle East. And so Dad ferried pilots over. He said that this was the first time that the U.S. had been in a conflict for a while, and he said the guys all looked really scared. So Dad said, "Hey, when we landed, we just gave them all the snacks, everything off the plane. We said, you just take it." But they were in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia.
That's just across from Afghanistan.
Across from Afghanistan, and a man got on the plane. He was fueling the Eastern, was it A300 or DC-10? I don't remember. That was, when Eastern went under, there were only 8 pilots with more seniority than my dad when the airlines went under in 91. But anyway, this man gets on, this Saudi Arabian man, asking in Arabic, you know, he wanted basically how to pay for the fuel. He wanted a credit card, and my dad didn't have one. The airlines hadn't given him one. And so Dad's kind of like, I don't know what you're saying. And so the guy went, and there was a Delta aircraft there as well. And so the guy brought, to show as an example to my dad, the bill from Delta.
The card.
And as soon as Dad saw it, Dad goes, "That's it.
That's it.
That's the one." And so they charged Eastern's fuel to Delta that day. And we think that's just a fantastic story. And we just love that story.
And he did not want to be flown up in the cargo hold of an aircraft. He said, I'm a pilot, I'm not cargo. So he made me and my brother swear to drive him up in a truck, which is sitting out there, that he purchased with the camper top just for his, just so he could ride in the back. And Estan and I rode the HOV lane in Atlanta, just hoping we'd get pulled over for the third guy rule, you know, because I'd say he's in the back, you know, it's 3. But he, in preparation for that, the question came up, you know, you were in the military, he was a Navy mechanic. And they asked, you know, do you want the salute? He said, no. He was very humble. He didn't want my brother pushed for it. And it was very special. They came out and did the salute and all that, and the flag presentation to my mom. And my older boy is a lieutenant in the Marine Corps. And when he was commissioned, he had picked my dad for his first salute. And he had to get a coin, which was kind of special because it came out of Grandpa's. I bought my grandfather's coin collection, so I had a silver coin, so I gave it to my son. And I gave it to him to give to my dad, and they said, I don't know, all the tradition, but so he presented it to my dad gave him his first salute. So right after that, my dad wrapped that coin up in paper and stapled it and wrote on there, this is for my grandson, give it back to him at my funeral. So he had that planned. Wow. So I had that presented back to my son. But he's always very thoughtful, very humble. You know, and just bigger than life. You know, I remember at school as a kid, I would, you know, people were like, oh, my dad's a dentist, or my dad's an airline pilot. He's been on fire. He belly landed a huge aircraft. You know, they dropped the gear, and everyone's like, no, you're crazy. You know, so a lot of times nobody believed me, but yeah, he was just that.
And the guy got up front with him and had a handgun. And it was cocked, and the guy had it shoved in Estan's side, and he caught him off guard, and he made a comment to the guy. He said, I'll take you anywhere you want to go, just uncock that gun. And Estan kept telling me the story, kept going on. His co-pilot was an ex-Marine, not ex-Marine, a retired Marine, and every time Estan drew the attention from the hijacker, his co-pilot turned a few degrees towards the hijacker. And eventually, to end the story, Estan was able to get the gun away from him. The hijacker grabbed a hold of him, and Estan was giving him the what for when the police showed up. And Estan's closing statement, as nonchalant as he was, we made our pushback time. We weren't late. And technically, for the record, Estan did not go west, he went north.
The Holy City comes from Revelations 21 that talks about how in those last days there's no more sorrow, no more pain. And so I hope when you think about my dad, that you just know that he's not in pain. You know, this summer, I would say, Dad, how are you feeling? And he would say, Liz, I feel good, I just don't have any power. He would always talk about his body as if it was an aircraft. So he would say, Liz, the equipment's not working. I just don't have any power, you know, and that's the truth. My dad's mind was just solid, and but you know what? Our family, we believe in God, and we believe that Dad is with God, and he has a new body. He's not in any sorrow, any pain. There's no sorrow in heaven.
And I want you to say, this was for Captain Fuller. 1, 2, 3. This was for Captain Fuller.